Hi, welcome to Paleo Greenbird. I'm Greenbird, and today's flint knapping video is going to be directed towards a couple of good friends of mine, Woody and Bradley, who I've sent some flint knapping kits out to, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of one-on-one instruction. I know, Bradley, you have a little bit of experience. Woody, you've never done this before, so I'm super excited that you're going to get the chance to, experience what it's like to drive a flake off of a piece of obsidian or whatever other stone that you have. And speaking of which, what I chose was actually obsidian, because that's what I sent you both, but I think, Woody, I sent you mostly obsidian. So this is a mahogany obsidian spall, a little bit thinner, I think, than what you have in your kit, but we're going to use it anyway. To the both of you, I sent you 1-inch boppers, but I really need to get the 3/4-inch boppers out to you, because you really don't want to thin down too much without that 3/4-inch bopper. The 1-inch bopper is good for getting rid of a lot of the rough stuff, but once you get down to even a rough biface, you're going to want to switch to that 3/4-inch bopper. It's been really cold here. It's actually pretty warm today, so I'm going to try and melt some lead and maybe get a couple of boppers built for you guys. But Bradley, I know that you have a little bit of experience, so this might be a little bit below your pay grade, but wanted to go over some very basic stuff, because I know, Woody, you've never done it before, and I want you to have at least a little bit of success. You will make a bunch of gravel. Don't expect to make a perfect point. It's just not going to happen, but you'll get fun, you'll get hooked, and maybe you'll order some rock and you'll keep going. But so the first thing I want to talk about is reading your stone. So, like any other craft, or especially sculpting, where you want to create something out of a big piece, you're looking for what you can take off. So in flint knapping, we call these platforms, and platforms are typically low points that follow a ridge. So if you'll see right here, there's a low point, and generally there's going to be a ridge. Hope the camera's picking that up. That follows that. When you hit that, it's going to create pressure in there and then pop that flake off following that ridge. And that's pretty much what percussion is all about. So the biggest thing I can tell you that will probably make things easier for you is your platforms need to be relatively rugged, which means if you have really thin spots like I have here, if you hit those, you're just going to crush the edges, probably ruin the platform, get some chatter, what we call chatter, and make it very difficult. You'll have to knock that off and make a new platform. So the first thing that I would do, I'm a little unprepared here, but let me grab a hammerstone. And you can do this with your bopper too. In fact, maybe, you know what, I'll do this with my bopper. I'll take my 1-inch and just knock those edges clean. You're basically just knocking off all the very thin stuff, the stuff that is just, it's not going to go anywhere anyway. Just get rid of all the stuff that is weak, doesn't belong there. And actually, you know what? You can use your grinding stone for this too. Where's my grinding stone? I just upgraded my kit, so I don't know where anything is, but somewhere around here. Here we go. Got some sandstone, courtesy of Go Knapping. Great place to get beginner material. So I'm going to take my grinder, and I'm just going to grind off all the parts that don't want to be there. Ooh, you know what? I forgot the most important thing here. These. Wear them. Don't take chances. So I'm getting all this off me. Make sure you're in like a breezy area. Don't ever do this inside, Woody. It's not worth it. Anytime I've ever napped inside or even outside when there hasn't been a stiff breeze, I always go to bed with a cough. And as you can imagine, that's not good. Alright, so I'm just grinding off all the pieces that want to come off anyway. I'm not being too aggressive. Alright, so let's see what we got. Now, I'm also going to put on a cut-resistant glove. I don't always do this, but being that I haven't worked obsidian in quite a while, obsidian's very sharp. You will get cuts doing this, whether you wear the glove or not. But I figured I'll just play it a little safe. So what you're going to want to look for is what is your lowest point where you can take a flake off and still keep the integrity of what's going to eventually be disc shaped. So in my opinion, what I do is I look for the fattest part of the stone that I know I can take off, and in this case, if you can see it, it's going to be this right here. Okay, so always think about hitting the smiles. Think about when your old man used to say, wipe that smile off your face. That's what you're doing when you're knapping. So I'm going to try and find that smile. And this one's not fantastic, but I'm going to take it anyway. I'm going to grind it real well. When you grind those edges, that gives something for the copper to stick to. Okay, because what you're really doing, you're not just smacking the flake off. When the bopper comes in, you're coming down and in. And what that's doing is that's causing pressure. It's pulling it downward and pushing it inward to pluck that flake right off. That's what you're doing essentially. It's the same thing with pressure flaking. And I'll do a video for you on pressure flaking, and I would actually probably advise pressure flaking before you try percussion. I know it's probably going to be hard to resist. All right, so this is not an ideal platform, but I'm going to take it anyway. I'm going to go down and in. Okay. Perfect. So my flake fell apart a little bit, but as you can see, well, probably can't see really, but it did take a nice thinning flake off that spot. And what it did and what it usually does is it leaves me with another platform. Look at that platform that it left right here after I took that. And then eventually, I'll take this one. I'll flip it over, I'll take that one. So I'm going to take this smile right here. I'm going to grind it. Give it a nice good grind. Get the flakes off of your pad. When you grind it, you're toughening it up. You're making it a tougher platform. Makes it more forgiving. I think that's good. Oh yeah, okay, so you can see, hopefully you can see that right here. There's that big bulb. There's the platform here that we're going to take. And on the side that's going to come off, you can see this big ridge going down there. That big bulb. That's pretty desirable. And then I'm using my 1-inch bopper, which is the one you sent me. One I sent you. I haven't switched back to the 3/4 inch, but I will. And another good thing I want to tell you, Woody, is support. Make sure the back of your hand, or the front of your hand, your palm, is touching the back of that spall. Okay, let's just slow down, I guess, a little bit and talk about that. So I've got my hand a little bit under here, but I'm not death gripping it. I'm just supporting it so that it doesn't wobble around. I don't get end shock. Give something, some sort of cushion for that energy that I'm giving it to the stone to absorb into and not just shatter the stone. So it's resting on my leg relatively gently, but you know, snug. I've got it in the back of my hand. I'm not death gripping it, but I'm supporting it. I've got my thumb on the top. And I'm going to hit that platform down and in. See what happens. Whoops. Alright, that wasn't a great sound, but I got a flake. See if I can keep it together. Alright, so the flake was something like this. As you can see, I'm starting to thin the stone. Got a really bad step right there, though, or a hinge. I got a really bad hinge right there. Watch my video on hinges and steps, and you'll see. Basically, what that was is there was just not enough. I was a little aggressive. There wasn't enough inward pressure and downward to feather that out. That flake terminated early, and that's what I got. But this early in the game, it doesn't matter. You'll work that out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look around my stone for opportunistic platforms And obviously, you know, it's like anything else. It's like even whittling a stick. You don't want to thin one end down too much at a time. You want to make sure you're kind of doing things evenly. So I'm going to take a look and see what I have. And yeah, I see an opportunity right here to thin out that spot right there. So that's what I'm going to do. It's kind of a low platform, but I'm going to take it. And once you get to the point where you feel like the bopper is too big, if you decide to do percussion before I send you that 3/4 inch bopper, just stop and save that spall or that biface if you get it to that point until you get that bopper. Because you're not going to be able to complete an entire project with a 1-inch bopper. But I wanted to get it out there to you. Okay, so I'm going to put this against my leg. You know, you can fool around with angles. You can either have it stiff and do more inward, or I like to have it kind of like rocking off of my leg a little bit so I can control where the angle is based upon where I want the flake to travel. In this one, I want it to travel relatively straight, so I'm gonna give it a, I guess, I don't know, what is that, a 15-degree angle? I don't know. Another thing that I want to tell you is you don't want to press it against your leg. Don't press it against your leg because you'll get hinges every time. They'll terminate short. You gotta kind of float it on your leg. Oh, that felt good. Did you hear that noise? That's the noise you want to hear. Oh yeah, check this out. That's my flake. Oh yeah, I don't even care that I got a little hinge right there because I'll work that out, but this flake alone is another arrow point. Probably a bird point or a frog point, but who cares? I'm going to save that one. So we're starting to thin things out a little bit here. So we want to be cognizant of where we're thinning and not thin things too much. So I see a fat spot right here. I see a platform. I see a thick spot that could use to be reduced, and it won't affect the the integrity of the rest of my thinning. You know, like I said, you don't want to thin too much in one spot. So I'm going to grind it. And I personally, I don't blow the dust off. I leave the dust on there because, well, especially with obsidian, because I think it gives you a little bit more grab. Allows the copper to have something to kind of grip into. Because again, we're not hammering off pieces. We're pushing off flakes. I probably won't reduce this to an entire biface because I take my time when I make points, so you know, it's not uncommon for it to take me an hour to make a point or 2 hours, so I'm not going to bore you with that, but just to give you some pointers. So I'm going to hit this flake. I can hit this flake in a couple different places. I can hit it right here and drive the flake down this way, or I can hit it over on this side and drive it this way. So what I'm going to look for is what's the fattest ridge that I have to follow. Okay, see all those ridges? What's the fattest one? And I think this one right here is. Even though the platform is a little bit shaky. So maybe I'll grind a little bit more. Sometimes that happens. You have to go back. It's better to grind, better to analyze your platform and grind than it is to just, you know, smack and pray. And I may have second thoughts on this one. Yeah, I'm going to switch over to this platform here. Because the reason is that I feel like this platform here, the ridge, the integrity of the ridge, it veers to, if I was facing it, to the left, and I feel like it's just going to crush off. It's going to crush or step. So I'm going to take this flake first and hope that that leaves me a better platform. Huh. Well, let's just do it. That was a good sound. Look, I got a nice flake off there. Let's get it in the camera here. That was my hit. This is my flake. Again, this flake will be another arrowhead. I'm saving that. Or maybe I'll send it in the box to you folks. Who knows? Got a little bit of a... This is more of a... Nope, that's still a hinge. Still got a hinge, so I got to clean that up. But that's okay. We're still thick enough to be cleaning that stuff up. Right now we're thinning, but you do want to keep that in mind. If you have a hinge here, let me get it in the camera, if you have a hinge here, then obviously you know you need to hit it from the other side to clean up that hinge. Sorry to give you the finger. So I should be thinking about platforms on this side to clean that hinge out. But we're still pretty thick, so I'm going to take the platform that makes the most sense. And now I think it's that platform we were going to initially take, because now I have a better ridge. Right there. I hope this is making sense. I hope I'm not, you know, I hope I'm not just using words and saying things that don't make sense, because I'm trying to explain it as best I can. Okay, so once we take this ridge here, you can see there's a natural platform right here that we're going to take next. See the smile? Wipe the smile off your face. And then there's a ridge that follows that down. So let's go back to our original, because that's where it's the thickest. You always want to take where it's the thickest. I mean, we are trying to flatten this out after all. And I'll do a video on pressure flaking too, guys. I know, Bradley, you've done some pressure flaking, but you know, I know, Woody, you haven't really done anything at all, so that's probably where I would start before I get you the 3/4 inch bopper. I'm still on my 1 inch. I would normally probably drop down to a 3/4, but I'm going to stay with the 1 inch for now. I got flakes, good flakes, but there's so many of them, I'm not going to try and keep them together. But it did thin. It did do a good. It did its job. So now I'm going to look for my next platform. Where's it thickest? Where do I have a good chance of? And always keep the ends thinner than the middle. That's a Flint Knapping rule of thumb. Keep the ends thinner than the middle. You'll reduce end shock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this platform right here. Hopefully you can see that. It's this one right here. There's a ridge that follows it down. So let's grind it. Always have to grind. Especially with obsidian. Always grind obsidian. Always over grind. I don't like to nap a lot of obsidian because it makes a mess, but you know, it is relatively user-friendly. I think dacite is a little bit, or dacite, however you say it, is a little bit more friendly than obsidian. Because it's not as messy. Okay, so let's take this right here. Down in. Now I'm not going to do a huge strike, just enough to drive it down that entire ridge. Hopefully it curves a little bit. Oh yeah, okay, and we got success. Oh, my flag's falling apart, but you'll just have to trust me. So that one side's getting a little bit thin, so let's see what we're going to do here. So let's go back to the grinding stone. Let's toughen this up a little bit. Let's just do all the edges. See what we got. This is a very dusty stone, so like I said, don't nap this inside. I don't care what anybody says or how many fans you have. I know I apologize because a lot of my videos I'm doing a lot of napping and I don't really ever complete a point. It's because I take so long to do it. It's just the way I nap. I choose to take my time and have fun with it. I will do a video where I do a point from start to finish. Maybe I'll high speed or something like that, but I wanted to do this so that you had an idea of how to use your kit. That's my chickens wreaking havoc on my porch. Alright, so I'm reading the stone a little bit, and I'm seeing that there's a thick spot. Well, there's a couple thick spots, actually. And I'm also trying to see, you know, where are my steps and my hinges? What do I have to work out of this stone from the mistakes I've made? And all my platforms seem a little bit high right now, so I'm going to take this one right here. because this actually is a relatively low platform. It's going to give me a good flake down this ridge, maybe set me up for something over here. In the beginning, just take flakes and have fun, but you are going to want to at some point be able to take flakes and get an idea of, you know, where's that flake going to leave you for your next flake. Oh, that was a bad strike. You could hear it. And I got an early termination right there. Got a real bad hinge. So I'm going to have to fix that. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to set myself up a platform. So you see I have a hinge right here. Hopefully you can see that. Now also I have a potential platform right here. And that platform will drive right through that hinge and clean it up. That's what you want to do. Let's take another look at that. I lost my platform. Let's make that platform a little bit better. Sometimes you have to build your platforms. It's not a big deal. And I'm probably at the point where I need to build it down. I'm trying to stay with this 1 inch as long as I can. Yeah, that didn't really do much. I'm going to try it anyway, though. No, I'm going to fix it. Know your limitations. Alright, I'm going to try that. I don't know if I'll be able to get that or not, but I'm going to try it. Right now I'm just trying to do a little cleanup work. There we go, that worked. So you can see the flake that I got off of that. Nice big flake. You don't always need those big flakes. They're nice when it happens, but don't think that you need those all the time. And we're starting to thin this out nicely. Well, sort of nicely. So let's look for our thick spots. Now it becomes even more important to look for your thick spots. Sometimes now it comes down to more about little flakes than big flakes. Trying to feather everything out and make everything look a little bit symmetrical. I mean, we still have a lot of time for our finish work and cleanup. Obviously, it's not even a biface at this point, but it's always good to look into the future a little bit. Now let's try this. I need more grinding on that. So I'm looking for my platform, looking for something that has a smiley face, which I have right here. That's what I'm going to try and take. I'm going to try and follow that ridge right there. I'm hoping this shows up. It always shows up better in camera, or better in film than when I actually see it in the camera, so I'm not worrying about too much. It was okay. We didn't get any steps or anything, but we need a better platform. So if your platform is too high, which this is, okay, excuse me, you can see that platform is almost, it's above center line. I want to drop it down. So I still want that smiley face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and that's how I'm going to build my platform. By knocking down a little bit. And see how now that gives me the smile shape. I knocked it down this way. The flake goes down in there, which gives me the concavity if I flip it this way. And that's what you want. Because you want that concavity that runs with your ridge. Alright, so let's try it again. That sounded a lot better. No flake worth saving to show, but I definitely got a good flake. And what that also did was, look, it set me up with another platform right here. See that smile right there? I'm going to grind that, and I am going to run that ridge. I'm just trying to keep things relatively round. If I can, I'll start to turn it into like an oval shape, but right now I'm just trying to keep things round. Not worried too much about the shape. I'm just trying to thin things out. Get down to a point where I can really make something. Oh yeah, that's a good sound. Okay, I got myself a good hinge. Oh no, I didn't. Yep. So there we go. So there's the flake that came off. Right there. Didn't run all the way across, but luckily there must have been a hinge on the other side that I met. Cleaned everything out. Again, I am working on a 1-inch bopper. At this point, I typically will go down to my 3/4 inch, but let's just see what I can do. Alright, so now I'm starting to get kind of a turtle shape on this side, just a little bit. Not a big deal. Perfect chance for me to hit down on the opposite direction and make myself some platforms. If you see a spot that has a ridge on it, that's where you want to concentrate, because that's the best place to make a platform. And obviously I mean a ridge on the top, so that when you flip it over, the ridge is on the bottom. You can use your grinder for this, you don't have to use your hammer stone. So I'm doing a little bit of cleanup work. I'm thinking ahead. If I see a spot where I can make myself a platform for later, even if I'm not going to take it now, I do. I see a weak spot in here. Thick spot, thick spot. You never want a weak spot in the middle, so maybe I'll make myself a little platform there. There we go. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do now, I see a thick spot. This is clearly a thick spot. As you can see, I've got a nice platform to take that off. So that's what I'm going to do. If you're not wearing gloves, keep this entire stone completely grounded at all times. And regardless of what protection you have band-aids on, because when you first start, you're going to cut yourself. There's just no way around it. That was a bad strike. Needed to be ground more. Trying to get the thickest spot first. And I'm actually going to bill it down to my 3/4 inch. And like I said, guys, I will send you one of these. Yeah, I'm glad I did. Nice flake off there. If you're using too big of a billet, you'll just crush edges, you'll break your rock, you do all kinds of things you don't want to do. So right now, my rock is pretty flat. I'm just trying to thin and keep everything even and get it down to a point where I can start thinking about what it's going to look like. So now I'm just taking opportunistic platforms, trying to keep my center line consistent. That's a big thing. Once you start to thin down, you want to try and keep that center line. You don't want to end up with a turtle. I mean, there are ways to get around that, but once you start getting, you know, into the fine, you know, later stages of things, those turtles become much more difficult to address. So I'm trying to keep everything on center line. You can hear that. I don't know if you can hear the difference, or if it, you know, it'll take some time, but you can hear that noise. And off comes that flake right there. Exactly what you want. And now I took one off of here. I should probably try and take one off of here. Just try and keep things even. I see this side is pretty thick. I need to address that. So I'm going to go back to my 1-inch bopper. Make myself some platforms. Just by quick strikes down. I'm losing a little bit of rock doing this. I don't care though. We started off with a pretty big rock. And just look after you take a couple smacks and see where your platforms are, if you've been able to create some. I see a couple already. So what I look for is I look for the smile, obviously, and then as big of a ridge on top of there as I can. So I have a smile here. I got a nice big ridge coming down here. That's what I'm going to take. I'm going to clean it up just a little bit more. Try and get as much of a smile as I can. I don't want it too far under center line, but it definitely needs to be under center line. Ooh, it's kind of a flat platform. I don't have much to hit, but I'm going to do it anyway. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I'm going to hope that the experience that I have allows me to take that. Yeah, it did. So as you can see, this is starting to get real thin. Not real thin, but I mean thin compared to what we started with. And it becomes easier to find opportunistic platforms at this point because you've been taking so many platforms, and every time you take a platform, it makes a new one, just so you know. Well, sometimes you'll come into this right here. This is a flat edge. There's a lot of different ways to deal with it, but what I like to do is I like to just make a platform right here and just follow that ridge, take that kind of flatness out of it, and that's what I'm going to do. Or that's what I'm going to try and do. Let's just see if it works. So I'm making my platform. You can isolate these too. I'm not going to talk about isolated platforms right now, but if you're interested, you can Google it. Getting sitting all over my yard. Okay, so alright, so I've made a little platform to run across that ridge. You can see it right there. Probably should be a little bit bigger, but let's see what happens. I can always kind of come back from the other side if I have to. Grind it nice and good, make it nice and tough. Again, I'm going to take my 3/4 inch bopper on this. I'll send you guys one out very shortly. Now I'm going to have to control the angle on this because I want it to run across that ridge. I can't just smack it willy-nilly. I've got to angle it so that my strike pushes it off in that direction, which adds a little bit more to it. Oh, that was a bad strike. Oh, that was a bad strike too. If you get 2 bad strikes, don't go for number 3. Just reset and grind. It's because that platform was less than desirable. It's all right. Ooh, I got myself a little step right there. Alright, so I got that off, but I got some chatter on that side. That's what we call chatter, if you can see it. That needs to be corrected. It's going to be a pain, but it happens. I maybe actually should have used my 1-inch bopper for that. That might have helped. Hear that noise? Once you hear that noise, you can never not hear it. Alright, so I'm not going to keep going too long. It's been a long, kind of boring video as it is, but I hope this helps. If either of you have any questions at all, let me know. And I'll try and do a video. There we go, nice. What a nice flake. See what I can do. So until next time, Woody and Bradley, thank you so much for watching and for being great friends. And if anybody else enjoyed this video, I hope you share it, like it, ask me questions, anything you want. As you can see, we've still been able to thin this down even thinner than it was. So, and I can see platforms everywhere. So. Platforms are like, you know, like when you buy a new car. You never knew the car existed, but once you buy the car, it's all you see is that particular car. Same thing with platforms. Once you make a couple platforms, all you see are platforms everywhere. It gets in your blood. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know. And this is Paleo Greenbird, and I'm signing out.